What's up, gamers? This is NGG here, wanting to wish the Nintendo console a happy 39th birthday. And to celebrate the birthday, we are going to have me and our fellow content creators are going to have a list of our top 3 Nintendo console games of all time. So we're going to start off with a few content creators that you guys might know from the channel already, and then some that might be brand new to our channel. So don't forget to leave a like and a comment, and don't forget to sub to their channels with our amazing collaborators. Alright, so let's start off with the first one, and we're going to introduce Burdette from Burdette Dog's channel, and he's going to tell you about his favorite games.
Man, when I think of the NES and its library, there's a lot of amazing games that come to my mind. There's a whole handful of them, of course, like Mario games, Zelda games, everything like that. But I wanted to kind of compile a list of what I kind of think back to as nostalgia for the NES. And it's some games that you don't typically think about or don't have on any modern consoles. Because obviously you can have Mario 1, 2, and 3 on any system here anymore. But when I think back now to the NES, I think back to a lot of games like Marble Madness, for instance. Marble Madness is a fantastic game that's isometric. And when I think back to how revolutionary isometric games felt at the time, I just think that they're fantastic, and they used to blow my mind back in the day when you're used to such a two-dimensional field, and games that pushed it to the edge by going isometric were fantastic. I loved Marble Madness. You played through a few levels just to get the marble to the end with a time limit, but it's still pretty fun, and it still kind of holds up now today as well. I still like popping in Marble Madness and heading back to it. And speaking of isometric, brings me actually to the next one. And this is what really I think back to when I think to the NES, is something like Paperboy. I'm talking about classic, what you went to go play in an arcade. And Paperboy has one of those crazy arcade cabinets where you actually grab onto a steering wheel, or a bike steering wheel, and drive through the level. It's a fun game. You try to avoid people breakdancing on the street to mess up your paper route, and you try to deliver papers to your subscribers, and you bash the windows of your non-subscribers to make them subscribe. It's that crazy kind of aspect that I really love about Paperboy or the NES or just any of those nostalgia games. It comes back to just thinking about that classic arcade, but I still save the best for last, which is Dig Dug and Dig Dug 2 for the NES. I absolutely love Dig Dug. It's a fantastic series. I never hear people talk about it enough, and Dig Dug 2 is just another great installment into the series. I think that game should be way more talked about than what it is. I feel like I'm one of the only Dig Dug troopers and everything that keep advocating for people to just really have that on their top NES or top past game list. But Dig Dug is another fantastic game, just really bringing home that classic arcade feel once again. That's my top list. I'm curious on what everyone else's is as well. All right, thank you. Bye. Appreciate it. Thank you. Thank you for letting me join. Bye. Appreciate it. Bye.
Hey folks, Jay from Cold Nights here. When my good friend NGG asked me to join a collab about our 3 favorite NES titles, I just couldn't resist a stroll down memory lane. Some of my fondest memories growing up were my time spent on the living room floor playing my NES. One of the earliest and most dear recollections is playing Maniac Mansion. It was something I'd never come across before, a text adventure with pretty cool looking DOS-style graphics. It featured so many little jokes and Easter eggs, so many crazy characters like the Tentacle, mad scientists, perverted old nurses, and a cast of kids trying to rescue their friends, each with their own unique abilities. It honestly wasn't until I was older that I really truly figured out what to do and beat the game. But I sure had fun exploring the mansion and trying as a little kid. I can still remember thinking the Tentacle was one of the coolest characters I'd ever seen. You feed him, get him drinks, and help him overcome his depression about his failed music career. Sure enough, Most of my playthroughs ended in a dungeon, but it was totally worth it every single time. Another classic NES title I adored as a kid was River City Ransom. It was such a fun little beat-em-up with so many streets and turfs to explore. I loved that each turf was controlled by different gangs wearing different colors and with different names. The weapons were so cool. I loved the chain the most. As a young kid, I had no idea you could permanently upgrade your abilities by eating at all the restaurants on the strip. I just kept beating up dudes, eventually getting killed, and beating up dudes again. Playing the other newer games in the series, like River City Girls, or games inspired by it, like Scott Pilgrim, always bring back these great memories. The final game I'll talk about today I came across when I was a little bit older, but I loved it nonetheless. Uninvited was another great text adventure, this one with a much scarier horror theme. It led me to discover other great text adventure titles, like Deja Vu, Castle Shadowgate, and Monkey Island. It's crazy to think about how, as fun as these games were, they were actually teaching us better reading comprehension and problem solving. Crashing your car and waking up missing your sister, you enter a foreboding mansion filled with all sorts of ghosts, monsters, and spirits. Finding out all the ways you could die horribly was almost as satisfying as discovering how to beat the game. I'll never forget the pretty lady who turns around to reveal a horrifying skeleton that tears your limbs off. Such great memories. Thank you for having me on, NGG. I hope you'll all take the time to visit my channel and check out what we're doing. And as always, stay creepy.
What's going on, guys? Up and Nimbus here. So when Nintendo Gaming Gal had asked me what are my top 3 favorite NES games, I had to think on it a little bit, but I ultimately decided on these following 3 games. So without further ado, let's get straight into it. So the first game on this list is the original Donkey Kong. And the reason why it's one of my favorite NES games is mainly for the fact that it is the origin point for Donkey Kong. The game is also quite fun. It is very simple and addictive, but also very, very challenging. The simple concept that you are Jumpman, also known as Super Mario, and you have to navigate through all these different girders and construction sites, jumping over barrels and different obstacles and climbing ladders, and even though that the original Donkey Kong is quite simple in nature, it is such a blast and so much fun, and it is one of those classics that I just can't stop playing. So the second NES game on this list of my favorites is Dr. Mario. Now the reason for why this game is really important to me is because I played it a lot when I was a kid. Obviously, like all of these games on the list, they've been there since childhood for me. However, in my family, I'm not the only one who loves Dr. Mario. My own mother is a massive fan of this game, and when I was little, her and I would play this time and time again. I even have this nostalgic and vivid memory of playing Dr. Mario with my mother at a friend's place of hers, and the extra sprinkling on the cake of it all was that I remember that day was a nice, cozy, rainy summer's day. And what better way to experience that than by playing Dr. Mario at the same time. Now the final game on this list has to be Super Mario Bros. 3. What I love about this game is that it enhances and improves upon the previous 2 Super Mario Bros. And I love the introduction to all the different power-ups that you get, especially the Tanuki suit. Being able to fly and glide all over the place and whack enemies with your tail is one of the most satisfying power-ups in any video game. I love the different themes of the world map, from grassland to desert land, and especially giant land being my personal favorite. It was one of those games that was really hard to get to the end as a kid, but luckily in my teen years and into adulthood, I finally was able to beat this game in its entirety. NGG, thank you so much for inviting me on this collaboration of yours. I had an awesome time talking about my top 3 favorite NES games. And of course, I look forward to everybody else's choice within this video. So until the next time, everybody, Upper Nimbus is signing off.
Tiny Toon Adventures was my favorite game for years. And this was one of those games where I remember my mom ordered it from J.C. Penney's for me. And I want to say we had just moved. It was the summer of 1992. And we moved from LA because LA had a whole bunch of stuff happen. At that time, my mom ordered me from J.C. Penney's Tiny Toon Adventures. We moved from Los Angeles to Bakersfield. Bakersfield is hot for California natives, so people who have been there before. Somehow it got lost up in the mail. They sent me Carmen Sandiego instead. So it already took like almost a month and a half to get it snail mail. Then I had to send it back. Then I finally got this back. And then I couldn't beat the game. I still ended up beating this game. This is a game I'll probably be able to go back to. I seen somebody beat it on the end of the game. You fight Montana Max on this giant coin, and then you flip the coin or whatever on him. I want to go back and beat it just for myself, because look at the whole back story, the origin story I gave y'all for this game, because Tiny Toons was that game. Flintstones, actually one of my 6th or 7th favorite NES games. Not so much because I love the Flintstones, so much that the cartoon took a new thing during that time. Hanna-Barbera made these new cartoons in the early 90s, and back then you had an action figure and you had a game on the NES, because it was the Nintendo Entertainment System was the system to have. And this one, you were with, I can't remember his Kazam, Kazooie, the Green Martian, who basically kind of like introduced the Jetsons and the Flintstones. If I'm not mistaken, it's been a while since I watched that too. And you had to go from world to world to world, from the future, from the past, and then present, and then different things, and meet different characters. You did end up meeting George Jetson and them in this game, and it had a lot of nostalgic feelings and things for me, because, you know, it's like a smell or a song or something, just like with this next game. It is Chippendale Rescue Rangers, another purple title game with my name on the back. Sometimes some cry. Much like Tiny Toons, this was an origin story behind this. Chippendale was my favorite cartoon for a long, long time. And I used to watch the Disney block they used to have with DuckTales, Chippendale, and then Tailspin would be then Darkwing Duck. Those were the 3 o'clock block that was then in the early 90s, late 80s, early 90s. It first was Gummy Bears, magic and mystery, a part of their history, along with the secret of gummy berry juice. And then it was DuckTales, woo, and that came on at 3:30, and then sometimes, and then
Hello, Serge X here, and thank you to NGG for inviting me on to talk about my 3 favorite NES games, so let's get right into it. First up, let's talk about Double Dragon 2. Honestly, this is my favorite version of Double Dragon 2. Even though this is technically a downgrade from the arcade version, there's something about the 8-bit graphics and especially the soundtrack that gets me hyped to play Double Dragon 2. If you're not familiar with the Double Dragon franchise, it's a beat-em-up game in which you go through point A to point B, beat up various foes, and fight a boss at the end of the level to proceed onwards with the story. Easily the best thing about this game is the fact that you can play with a friend and do some co-op with each other, so you don't have to worry about player 1 going first and then player 2 going. No, you can play at the exact same time, so definitely check this one out. Next up, we have Castlevania 3, Dracula's Curse. Castlevania 3 follows the blueprint of the first game, more so than Simon's Quest. And this game is easily one of the best Castlevania games out there, even to this day. The graphics are incredible, some of the best sprite work I've seen, and especially some of the backgrounds. And what I really like about Castlevania 3 is, it's not entirely linear, as you can choose what level you want to do next at certain instances, and there are other playable characters in the game. So if you've never played a Castlevania game, definitely check out Castlevania 3. This game is tough, but you will have a great time with it, and the music is amazing. Last but not least, we have Mega Man 5. The Mega Man franchise is some of my favorite games around, and Mega Man on the NES was definitely plentiful, but I think the best game on the NES for the Mega Man franchise is definitely Mega Man 5. This game has come a long way since the first game, especially with the improved Mega Buster, which honestly is pretty overpowered. This level design is very varied, and a lot of them have different sort of gimmicks, which is pretty cool. The music is definitely a highlight of this game, and of course, graphics. This game definitely is a nice set piece for the NES. There's a lot of cool looking enemy designs, boss designs, and like I said earlier, with the various level backgrounds and level designs itself. So if you've never played a Mega Man game before, Mega Man 5 is pretty easy and accessible to new players in the series. Thanks again, NGG, for inviting me on to this video. The NES is a fantastic console, and these games you should definitely put on your must-play list.
Hello everyone, for those who don't know me, I'm Disney Gaming 22 here, and first off I want to say thank you NGG for having me a part of this thing, talking about our top 3 NES games. Though I'm really glad that this system is like a really iconic console though. But I'm gonna just get straight to the point. Let's get straight to it though. So without further ado, let's talk about my top 3 NES games though. So coming in at number 3 is Gradius. What I liked about it is the unique power-up system. It introduced an innovative power-up system where you can actually choose how to upgrade your ship based on the number of collected capsules. This offered a strategic depth. The game is absolutely tough, but in a rewarding way. It's one of those titles where memorization of enemy patterns is key, and mastering the levels feels very satisfying once you do. Coming in at number 2 is Double Dragon. What I liked about it is the variety of moves such as punches, kicks, and the iconic elbow attack, and it added some depth to the combat. You can also pick up weapons dropped by enemies, which kept the gameplay fresh though. And then the soundtrack was absolutely catchy, and then the levels had a gritty urban feel that matched the tone of the game. The music added energy and excitement to each stage. Favorite NES game played was Xavius the Avenger. Now, what I liked about it was the innovative feature, the innovative gameplay. It introduced dual layer shooting mechanics where you could attack both air-based and ground-based enemies, offering more strategic depth. The game difficulty was high, which made it a rewarding experience for people who enjoyed mastering its patterns and enemies' formations. And then the legacy it had, as it's one of the earliest vertically scrolling shooters, it set a standard for the genre and influenced many later games though. Those are my top 3 NES games though. Again, thank you NGG for having me a part of this though, and I am glad to have been a part of this though. Again, this is Disney Gaming 22, and I'm out of here.
Wow, such amazing classic Nintendo games from all of our fellow content creators. Oh my god, such a vast array of different kinds of Nintendo consoles. I am so glad that there are so many different games and different consoles for you to share. And I do want to go with honorary mention for my first one, as since somebody already talked about it, and it's my favorite. It's one I grew up with, which is Maniac Mansion. This was so amazing. This is an honorable mention. I'm not going to talk about it. Jay from Cold Knights Gaming has already told you so much about it. But I just wanted to say this is in my top 5. I know we're doing a top 3 right now, but this definitely is in my top 5. It didn't make the top 3, but oh, so close. All right, so we're gonna go from least to the most in mine. So we're gonna start off with 3rd place, and my 3rd place favorite game of the original Nintendo console was A Boy and His Blob. I used to remember playing this a lot. Like, you had to give your blob a certain amount, like a certain being, in order for him to do anything for you, to fly, help you get up places, create holes for you to get down places. I do want to show you that it does have a Switch. It's on the Switch, so you could probably buy a physical from Limited Run if you can find it, or you can definitely download it if you're interested. It did have a remake for the Switch as well. Let me get that down for you. That was A Boy and His his Blob. This is a remake or a remaster. So if you don't want to play the OG version, there's The Boy and His Blob. So yeah, I had tons and tons of fun with The Boy and His Blob, the platforming, the climbing, and trying to get the boy to where he had to go. I don't remember this story, guys. I played this when I was so young, and I'm amazed that I made it any kind of far with the puzzly kind of nature of this game and having to know where to go and where to go next. The next game I want to talk to you about is, I know I'm gonna get hate for this, guys. I know I'm gonna get hate, but it is one of my favorite Nintendo games, and that is the Adventures of Link. I know everybody hated number 2. I loved number 2. I remember the side scrolling through the town. I remember beating this when I was young, and I don't know why it got the hate it got. I mean, I guess they never redid another Adventure of Link. It's always been the Adventures of Zelda, even though we're following Link. We're saving Zelda, but we're following Link. So if this game would have been better received, I think the rest of the games would have been the Legends of Link. But because it wasn't, we have the Legends of Zelda. And like I said, I remember going side scrolling, the music, the hitting monsters with your little sword up and bottom. This one is also available on the NSO right now, so if you wanted to play it and you had the Nintendo Online subscription, it is on the Nintendo Online subscription, so you can play it now without having to worry about buying it or downloading it or anything. It's free with the online membership, so if you wanted to play it, it is one of my favorite Zelda games from way back when on the Nintendo. So, and my final one is gonna be no surprise to anybody, and that is my OG Final Fantasy game. This game got me into a lot. Well, not this one specifically. I got another one that got me into Final Fantasy, and then I found this one like at the $5 bin. This is my original copy, guys. I know it's not in pristine condition, but for having this, I'm just a slightly, guys, a little older than the Nintendo itself. So imagine how many years I've had this my original game. I still have the original map. I actually streamed the Pixel Remaster. I streamed it on the Pixel Remaster using the guide that came with this, the maps that came with it, and had it not been for the maps and the guide, I don't think I would have gotten very far in the Pixel Remaster. So this copy still works. At least the stuff that came included, which I hate that we don't get anymore. No maps, no booklets, this booklet was almost a mini strategy guide if you needed it for the beginning. It didn't help you kind of at the end, but once you got going, it like helped you get going to most of the game and showed you locations for the rest of whatever it didn't help you with. But this was one of my favorite games growing up when I was a child. This game, not the Nintendo version, is reviewed on my channel, so if you want to see more gameplay, I did a let's play. I also did a review. Love Final Fantasy. I thought back then that I beat the boss, and I didn't. The only thing I don't like about this and now we're gonna have to remember, this is old school games. It didn't have a big story like the ones we have now. So I didn't feel any personal attachment to each and every character that we played, because you can pick whatever class, and it was like a silent protagonist kind of all of them. So you weren't engaged. You were more engaged in what was happening in the game than the characters you play. They later fixed that in all Final Fantasies, but in this one, like I said, this was the OG one. This was Square Enix was like, all right, this is gonna be our Final Fantasy. They didn't think this game was gonna do great. And what number are we on now? We are on 16 right now. That means this game is the reason that we have all the current ones we have, and all the Final Fantasy love that we have now is because this one started it all, and this one did great for the market, and led to them bringing out more Final Fantasies. So those were all our games. I hope you guys have a great 39th birthday on the Nintendo. If you enjoyed the consoles when you were younger, put in the description what games you played when you were younger. What were your favorites? Let us know in the comments below. And don't forget to follow and subscribe to all our fellow content creators and say hello from NGG. Thank you guys for watching. Happy gaming, guys. Bye.